Go. So today we are joined with the magnificent Chris Watkin. How are you doing, Chris?
Very well, thank you, Claire. Thanks for having me on, and thank you, Mark, as well.
Oh, it's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. It's really good to see you. It always is. So as we always do with these podcasts, we want to get to know the person. We were obviously talking off camera a little while ago and as to why we started this. And we want to help people improve. Well, we want to help improve the industry as a whole, obviously. And there are some significant people out there that we can see are already, you know, trailblazers within the industry and looking to make a difference themselves. And absolutely, when we talk about people in the industry that are making a difference, then your name will always come up, probably top of the list, Chris, to be fair.
Well done.
So so look, before we get into the why, the passion and everything, I'd love to hear your story first of all. You know, where does your story begin in a state agency? How did you get into this wonderful industry?
Fifth year, which is old money. I don't know what it is. What's fifth year? What year do you do GCSEs now?
That's year
I
11.
much prefer that. I do exactly the same, Chris. I literally don't know what year my kids are. I just don't know what they're doing now. It's
Okay,
just like
year 11.
It is
yeah.
year 11, yeah.
Okay, so year 11, I went on work experience to an estate agent surveyors, and we went around the countryside looking at houses and drinking cups of tea. And this was 1987, and I thought to myself, yeah, that's a good job. I fancy some of that. So anyway, I did my A levels, went to Sheffield and I was going to be a chartered surveyor.
Okay.
And did my 4 years in surveying, one of which was a year in industry, which just happened to be in my own market town. And the reason it was in my own market town is that this was 1991, which some of us with grey hair, obviously no one here, you guys, because you're too young, but there was a huge recession on.
Yeah.
And to finish the degree, the surveying degree, you had to have a year in industry, and there was no jobs out there. So basically, I took a job at an estate agent's with no pay for a year.
Wow.
But I was able to live at home, and my family. I've got a butcher's shop in town, very well known, and you know, you could say, why did you do that? Well, it's all about investing in yourself, isn't it? And so
That was early to do that, Chris, right?
Well, you know, sometimes you've got to look at the bigger picture, haven't you? But something really did come out of that is that I met my future gorgeous wife, and we married in 1997. Got the year right there, Joe.
Well done.
Anyway, I left university with a surveying degree. There was still no jobs in surveying, so I went into a state agency just to tide me over, and I've been in the game ever since.
Okay. So
I've
what
missed a
kept
lot
you
out
there?
there, haven't I?
Well, you have a little bit, but what kept you there all this time though?
Looking in airing cupboards.
Is that a fetish? I don't know if I want to know this.
No. Pardon the pun. No, but there's not many. I don't think there's many around that has been in the many bedrooms as I have in all the years I've been working in the state agency. No, joking aside. I mean, no one actually sets out to be an estate agent, do they? It's just something that you kind of go into because you've got nothing else to do. And it's a bit like the Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave. And I don't know. When I was young, you know, okay, so I went into a state agency because there was no jobs in surveying, and I worked for the Halifax for a huge amount of years, went through the ranks. And in a roundabout way, after being made redundant in 2008, so I was with the Halifax from 97. I got made redundant in 2008. There was a year in between there where I went to work for someone else, but that didn't work out, so I went back to the Halifax. I ended up with being made redundant twice, which again, this might be something that we might want, if you want to pull up. Being made redundant twice is not particularly pretty. I ended up at Belvoir as head of national recruitment for franchises.
Okay.
And I was there for 2.5 years. Enjoyed it, and again, it was 10 years ago now. December the 2013, the 12th, I handed my notice in and set up the business I'm in now. There you go. That's the TV. No one's interested in me.
Oh no, but we are though. That's why you're on here. So okay, so you decided to start your own business, presumably because of the the pain that you go through when you get made redundant? Was that kind of where it came from? You
No,
never want to be in that position?
okay, so the made redundant bit was not me leaving Belvoir. Basically, what happened is that my job was selling the franchises.
Hmm.
And what happened is that to sell more franchises, I went out into the network to find out which franchisees were putting trees up and organically growing their businesses really well. And I found that there was three or four of them that were really pulling up trees and organically growing by 50, 80 properties a year on mainly rentals at this point. And I thought to myself, if I can distill down what they do, I can then almost go to new franchisees and say, if you do what these franchisees do, you will win. If you do what everyone else does, you'll find it a bit more difficult.
Hmm.
So I wanted to find something that would help me sell more franchises to earn me more money.
Okay.
The thing is, though, is that they gave me some offices to play with, just to keep you quiet. And I replicated what the other offices were doing in those offices. So when I went and said I'm being a bit bored of selling franchises, could you let me loose on helping the network grow their businesses? They said, no, your job is selling franchises.
I
And
see.
kind of said, well, I'm not happy doing this. So, we agreed to part, and the rest is history. So I didn't purposely, I think my hand was forced, but
Hmm.
but I'm glad it was. And
Yeah.
I think there's an awful lot of people watching this who work for, as for an employed person. And the biggest thing, we all have frustrations in this world, but you kind of get on with it. But the big one is fear. Uh, and I think fear isn't the problem, inaction is, and it's all about taking that first step and then the next step and the next step. It's fear isn't a sign that you shouldn't start the path. It's a sign that you're on the right path. And I think people need to lean into that fear. And I'm quite glad that I was kind of wasn't forced out, but it was kind of you have to say, oh, sorry, let's just do it. And I'm glad they
Yeah.
did it because now my wife had left her job 6 months before, and I saw that was quite brave of her to do, to
Mm.
start a business. And I thought, so well, if it's good enough for Joe, it's good enough for me, and the rest is history.
Love that. So there's always a good woman leading the way then. That's what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. I mean, I do have a certain skill set, but Joanne complements me with my weaknesses.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
love that.
we must work quite well because she's just literally 2 feet away. We've got a kitchen table with two computers on it, and we sit opposite each other every single day.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Is you mentioning about fear there? I went to a conference in February and met with a fantastic guy there called Rory Vaden. And something he said about fear really stuck with me. And he basically said that actually fear is quite a self-centered concept because if you're feeling fear, it means you're only thinking about yourself. And when it
Yeah.
comes to you starting a business, it's usually because you want to help others or you want to do more or you want to improve something. You've got an idea where you think it's gonna make some improvements and help people. And if you feel the fear and you don't do it, it's self-centered. Interesting.
Um, yeah, but you do. There's some selfishness in there that you're fed up. You've got the frustration of listening to a boss who's a bit of a prat. And I will just say to anyone that does passes the Rubicon, the line to go self-employed, you still have to end up listening to a prat. It just happens to be yourself. I just think uh, people are scared of people are not scared of starting their own business. They're just scared of failing and being laughed at and looking stupid, that their bosses said, ha ha ha, I told you so.
Yeah.
And I don't think failure is the opposite of success. It's just something part of it.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, you fail forward, don't you? You have to make mistakes to learn from them. As long as you pick yourself up and you move forward and you make the change, eventually, the only time you fail is if you quit, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
If you fail, it's a lesson. If you win, it's a success. But you're doing it for my wife and I, we like to go around the country for odd days out. Um, and and we nice holidays when we can get them. That's what and nice houses and nice cars. That those are benefits. But if you're doing it for that, I don't think you'll get through the pain.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
Agreed.
It's such a hard work handing that notice in. And I think quite an awful lot of people get it wrong. They, estate agency is a people business. And what are you doing to build up your personal brand? And what I would be saying to anyone thinking, and this is going to go completely against any advice that any self-employed estate agency says, but I am a man of my own word and my own opinion is the worst thing you can do is hand your notice in, start your own agency, and then start your personal brand marketing. You should be doing it whilst you're being paid for by your existing client, existing boss, and
I completely agree.
see that as an investment. So when you do hand your notice in, like Tony Ruby in Grantham, he was number 2 or number 3 in the first 3 months of him leaving the estate agency. Why? Because he built his personal brand.
Yeah, absolutely. We really enjoyed that podcast. We did a podcast with Tony recently, actually, and yeah, that's exactly what he explained. That he was already the mayor of his town almost in that area. He'd done so for the other independent business. He did say that it was never really his intention to start his own business, but he wanted to earn more money. He'd built his brand, and he just couldn't earn what he wanted to earn where he was, and again, almost forced his hand into starting his own business, but made all the more easier because he was already well known.
And I think the magic thing is just because you start your personal brand doesn't necessarily mean that you do have to hand your notice in.
Sure.
But gives you options.
Yeah.
So you can either build your personal brand and if you like what you've got with your existing firm, carry on and you're just getting more business and you're attracting more people, or it gives you options, And the way I would judge this is how many valuations do you as a valuer have come about by someone sending you a DM, a mobile phone text message, or a mobile phone directly to you and your mobile phone? Because I tell you here and now, if you're expecting people to ring up your old employer and say, can I speak to Dave? They're not going to say, oh no, Dave has set up his own business now. Would you like his telephone number? They're going to say, oh no, Dave doesn't work for us anymore, but we've got Carly. Would you like her to? Yeah, and off you go. You're not going to get them.
Yeah.
Because I will just say here and now, most estate agency valuers are lazy and entitled. How many valuations of the last 50 have you generated purely by your own actions?
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to come to you when you leave.
Yeah, exactly that. So would you be advising people then, yes, build your own profile, but actually go out there and try and generate business yourself? Would you be telling agents in the high street to go out and door knock and generate business for themselves, not wait for a handout?
Well, I think there's 2 things there. One is business generation, and one is building your personal brand. And if you did a Venn diagram, there would be a little bit of crossover. But surely you have a responsibility with the position that you're in, whether you're employed or not, to go out there generating business.
I suppose it's whether or not you're allowed to, because lots of people that we've spoken to in the past, even when they wanted to go out and do door knocking, Claire, we've spoken to many agents that turn around and say, because they were out and about, their boss at that time was like, well, why are you doing that? We don't want you to be doing that. That's not what we pay you to do in our time, and we choose what you do within those hours. So that can be quite tricky.
It could be, but I'm surprised bosses wouldn't want their valuers to generate for evaluations. I mean, there's a difference if they're doing 4 a day and that's all you're doing. But if you're only doing 1 or 2 a day, then you do have, oh, does it take 4 hours to write a brochure now? Oh, I'd rather do that than go door knocking because I get the door slammed in my face. Because the type of personality type that is an estate agent valuer is a person who is more outward going as opposed to reserved, and more people as opposed to process orientated. So they're an outward going people person, and that personality type, their biggest fear is rejection. So they don't tend to go door knocking because it's a bit like someone going into a spider house if they're scared of spiders.
Yeah.
Now, building your personal brand, well, that's something completely different because that's not business generation. That's building a personal brand.
So when you first made the decision to leave Belvoir and go out and do what you really wanted to do, was it about personal brand for you straight away, Chris, as well? Like, was you like, right, I need, so how did you even get started in what you do?
I started creating content that would be of interest to estate and letting agents, primarily in the written format, because I believed in the technique. You can either go hunting for clients or farm them. So I had about a few Belvoir clients found out I moved, asked what I did, and I said my job is to help you generate more landlord and vendor leads for your agency, and they came across straight away. And I only needed probably 6 or 7, and I was earning the same amount of money that I was earning in my old job,
Yeah.
and then it just slowly built from there.
Okay. So how did you
But
get to where you are then? Like, how did you go from having 6 or 7 clients and helping them to generate more leads to the magnificent human that sits before me today?
Claire, I'd like to go. Could we go just a step back just before that question and come back to this?
Yeah.
Because I'd quite like to understand from Chris whether or not, like the young Chris, as we said in year 5, that I understand year 5 far more, which should probably show my age, Chris, there for you as well. Is that Was the young Chris, was it ever an ambition of yours to own your own business? Was you or more in that employed mindset? And over the course of you working, did the redundancy have an effect on you, or was it already there anyway, or did that kind of educate you to actually an employed position sometimes isn't actually as secure as what some people think? Is anything in there? Does that stir any emotion for you?
I would say, I'm just going to get the boss, the senior management, which is the wife. She's known as senior management within the clients. I don't think I ever hankered after being a businessman, did I, Joe? No,
Mm.
never even crossed my mind. I mean, my grandfather was very entrepreneurial, and my father took over the business. But I don't, I'm not sure I would have had the guts there, 10 years ago to start my own estate agency,
Mm.
because you had to have a shop unit. You had to have 100 grand or 50 grand or something like that. And I just I don't think, you sometimes question your own ability. I just thought to myself, God, it was my hand was forced with the Belvoir, and you just kind of think, well, what am I going to do now? Or I'll do it. And thank God it did happen. But
Mm.
no, I didn't hanker to be self-employed.
So just on what you've just said there, so you said obviously you found yourself in the position, a series of events happened that meant you felt like you couldn't continue with Belfire and that you needed to go and do it for yourself. And I'm really interested in this answer. Was you in a
Well, no,
position where it
no,
had,
no. I could no. I was in a position where my hand was forced at Belvoir, and I thought to myself, well, now my hand's being forced. I'd kind of hung my nose over it for a couple of years, but it was never particularly serious. But
mm,
when my wife went self-employed, I thought how brave she was. And I just thought to myself, well, if you're going to do it now. Ultimately, I thought to myself, well, if I mess it up, I'll just go and get a corporate valuer's job and just get on with life. Maybe,
right,
I don't know.
okay, so it wasn't a case
I'm not
of,
very good at planning.
right, okay,
I'm really, I'm not, I kind of just take each day as it comes.
okay, so it wasn't a case of this has to work, therefore, I've got to make this work.
Well, it had to work because I certainly wasn't going to go with a begging bowl to my parents asking for money.
Okay, so that's interesting because every single person that we've seen build a good business, a strong business, and be consistent in what they need to do to be successful, did have that feeling of, I can't, this can't not work for me. It can't
I,
fail.
but again, I would, I have a different point of view on that. In that, so what if it fails?
Yeah. But was that
You
Yeah.
that
know,
wasn't how you were feeling, or was that how you were feeling?
hindsight's a beautiful thing, but I think just sometimes you just got to get out there and have a go, haven't you?
Yeah.
And
I
like we
think
said,
that's a I think it's a process of elimination, isn't it? It's like how do you get over that fear factor? And I think what you've just said there, Chris, is that's very similar to how my brain works. It will go in worst case scenario to allow myself to go more logical with, well, I know I can make this work. The chances of this work are very high. So worst case scenario is I have to go and get a job back in the corporate world.
yeah,
Okay,
I think there's a lot of people out there who are paralyzed by this failing in public and being
Yes.
laughed at and being looked stupid. But honestly, if you think no one's really bothered about you, everyone thinks
Yeah.
everyone else is talking and thinking about them, when in
Yeah.
reality, they're all those other people are actually worried what other people think of them.
Yes. So
Uh,
true.
Okay, so really, those opinions don't pay the mortgage. I knew damn well that I had to earn to pay my mortgage. You know, thankfully we we haven't moved house in 25 years, so we thankfully paid the mortgage off now. We're in a hump. You know, I worked out that I would only need to get to break even 6 or 7 clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I kind of knew I could get 5 or 6 clients. And again, that would be, that would be my point, and we cannot, isn't it amazing how as our salaries rise, our expenditure rises in line?
Mm.
Okay. And I think, I think it's just sometimes you just got to say, right, we're going to cut our cloth accordingly. You can't have 2 cars, you can have 1 car. You're not going to go on holiday this year. And we're just going to get our head down and do this. It scares me that so many self-employed estate agents are glory boy and glory girl show ponies who are very good at converting on the sofa, but haven't generated their own business. And that is the crux of it, is you need to be able to be good at generating the business, which I knew I would be good at because I'm good at that, and then actually doing the job and working out I only need to do this amount of work to break even. And then people say, well, especially in the stage, they say, well, what about your market share? Give us a fuck about your ready market share. It's just willy waving.
Yeah.
Just other people's opinions don't pay the bills. You've got to kind of cut your cloth and just get on with it. And if you fail, you fail. And if you succeed, you win.
So where did this passion for wanting to help other people and doing the sofa talks and speaking to people about their stories to help others, where did that even begin, Chris? How did that start?
I it was the 23rd of December 2016, and I really did F up big time with one of my clients. And if it had gone wrong, it could have really ruined me, not financially, but for my reputation. Anyway, I apologize to this person, and they forgive me. She's actually a very good friend. In fact, we've actually, my wife and I have actually been up to her house and only last year. That's how friends we are. And we stopped at her house for a few days. So, but I was so shocked. I went down to my shed, which is my office, and for some reason I just switched the video on and did a video about, I can't even remember what my first video was about. I think it was about generating more business, or it did something like that. And I posted it, and it got a lot of nice feedback. So I did another one, and I posted another one a week later. And then Stephen Brown, the esteemed estate agency trainer, was coming to Grantham, I think in like the Feb or March of that year. And he says, why don't we have a chat? So I took my mobile phone and we put it on some little chairs and I interviewed him. And that went down really well. Probably more to do with the fact that it was Stephen Brown, because he's a good bloke. So I did another one, and then I did another one, and now I've done 2,700.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I do them for purely selfish reasons.
How is it selfish?
Right. Well, the first thing is this: no one pays to go on the Watkin sofa, and it costs me quite a few. And we're not talking a couple. It costs me quite a few £100s for every single person to sit there.
Yeah.
Okay. So no one can pay to go on the sofa. I just did it as an experiment. So, why do I do it? I do it for my own mental health. That I get to have an hour and a half of really interesting one-to-one time with someone interesting from the industry.
Wow. I love that.
I don't. I mean, this might. Claire, you've been on the sofa. Mark, you haven't. Claire, I honestly do not give a flying F about any of the topics I talk about.
You just like talking to people.
Just love talking to interesting people. If I wanted to talk about what I was interested in, I would talk about my wife, corgi dogs, collecting antique Freemason medals, drinking craft beer, collecting antique whiskey, and train timetables.
Wow.
That's I'm not a train spotter. I just love train timetables. Don't ask me why. I'm
I,
weird.
there's nothing weird about that. That's a passion of yours. Why not? I love that you've shared it. I wonder if anyone else has it. If you've ever shared that anywhere else, but I love that about
I
you.
have. I mean, and again, just to show you how how little things make a difference. We all know Chris Webb, don't we? The trainer.
Yep.
He listened to me and then went and bought off eBay a train timetable from 1961 to my hometown.
Ah, I love
Okay,
that.
so therefore, just something that might only cost him a couple of quid is next to my computer. And now I think I thought Chris Webb was good, but now the sun shines out his arse.
Well, that's connecting with people, right? That's
And it's,
connecting with people.
yeah, and I think, that's what agents should do. They should go and look at someone, if they're trying to woo a big client, a good client, go into their Facebook feed. And if the guy or lady is into, say, their barbecue, then go and get some fancy barbecue stuff and say, here you go for your
Yeah.
barbecue.
Do
Yeah.
you find that obviously from when you did that and now it may be different to why you do it now, maybe from in the beginning, but
Okay, when I started off doing the videos, I thought to myself, this is a great way. I enjoyed the smoke being blown up my ass because most people do. This is in the early days, and it got me attention.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Um, what is particularly interesting that has totally evolved and gone full 360, full 180 now.
mm,
In that I do it now for my mental health because I realize I do it for my mental health. And it's what is interesting is this. Joanne, my wife, asked me after 2 years, have we got the money back from the videos that you do?
Hmm.
And I looked her in the eye after 2 years and said, no. And she said, so why are we carrying on with it? And I said, well, if you want to stop, we will, because you're half a owner of the business. But I just believe in the process. It's like planting seeds. And the videos that I planted that I did in 16, 17, well, now 17, 18, and 19, you know, has got me to the position that I'm in the industry now.
mm,
Yeah.
And that's what estate agents should be doing in their own town, is that we're all looking for the shortcut, the silver bullet, the quick win to get more business, when in reality, sometimes there are certain things in life that can't be measured, and you just have to believe in the process. So, you know, I've famously gone on record to say that I've only ever spent £600 in the last 10 years on advertising, yet I have 122 clients that I
Okay.
write content on their local property, because that's what I do. Most people don't even know what I do for a living.
Mm.
Most people think my job is interviewing people on the sofa. It isn't. My job is to create content about the local property market. And there's got my wife, and we've got 2 team members as well. And we produce them local content on their local property market because local homeowners are interested in the local property market and the value of their own home. But you
Mm.
never see me talk about that. But the
No.
magic thing is this: if you create content which is of interest to your potential clients, they then become interested in you. When someone becomes interested in you, they get to know you. And then when they get to know you, they get to like you. And when they get to like you, they trust you.
Hmm.
And people do business with people they only trust.
mm.
So the job of we keep banging on about this personal brand, and we maybe want to go down that rabbit hole about how to get a personal brand. It's not about just putting your name out there and putting your name in lights. It's going out there just to help people,
Yep.
without any expectation of anything in return.
Yeah.
That's the killer bit.
Yeah. Well, personal brand actually isn't about you, is it? It's about how you serve people.
Yep, or yeah, how you help people, same thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that was again, I'm dropping Rory Vaden's name in it again because he was a brilliant speaker. And that's exactly what he says. What he said was, you are best positioned to serve the person you once were. So if you think about any time you've had a difficult experience moving home or trying to let your home out if you're a landlord, and think about the pain points that you suffered and what was difficult for you, well, how can you serve that person best? What can you provide to that person of value that solves their problem? That's what personal branding is. It's not actually about you. It's about solving the problems of the people that you once were, if that makes sense.
Yeah, problems. You could people say, well, what are so you write down all the problems, and I'll add to that. You write down their fears and frustrations.
Yes.
So therefore, if I was creating content to attract self-employed estate agents, I'd be talking about the fears and frustrations, which are problems of employed agents. If you want to attract homeowners and landlords to your agency, you talk about the fears and the frustrations and the hopes and the dreams of homeowners in your town. And it certainly isn't your pie chart, market share, or listings, because that's what most estate agents' social media is: listing, 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 testimonial, listing, listing, listing.
Yeah.
It's just like Rightmove with a Facebook logo on the top.
Yeah, absolutely. What one of the exercises that we help our agents with here is coming up with 52 questions that you could answer for your audience. So think of 52 questions or 52 problems that you can solve, or 52, pain points that you could address about your audience, and then create content each week on those subjects. If you came up with 52 questions, you'd have content for the next year, wouldn't you?
You would, and then you can turn those questions into like a story rant or top tips, or so you can recite when you get to the end of the questions, go back again and just do it. In fact, just copy it, just refilm it, recopy it.
Exactly. It's repurposing the content, isn't it? Because you could do a video, then you could take the audio of that video and make it a short podcast. You could then also, chop up the best bits that you said in that video and create some great one-liners from it. You could take the audio from it, put it through some software, and it would turn it into a blog for you. All of those different things. That one question could
Yeah, but
create
that
so much
requires hard
content.
work. That requires hard work and patience.
It does, but that's how you build a personal brand, and that's how people see you as the go-to, right?
Yeah, but I want it now. There's the problem.
Well, look, you can go out there, you can knock a door that's on the market, you might get lucky and bring a property on, right? But that will get you a sale. It won't build you a business, not long term.
No, it's a damn sight easier for them to come to you. I see attracting landlords and vendors very similar to the dating game. Now, I can only talk as a man, but if you walk into this is how most estate agents work. They would go into their local Weatherspoons, fling the doors open, and shout up from the top of the voices, "There's only single ladies in here. Get your coat on. You've pulled."
That
That's
that
that's
might work on me occasionally, but no, it wouldn't.
that's their technique. Landlords wanted. Come and use us. We're brilliant. Look at the size of my what's name. That is how they market themselves. And there might be someone desperate there. Now, okay, scenario number two, you could be quite smart, and I could again, if I was 16, 17 years old, I could go to the pub, because obviously not the pub, because you can't be underage drinking. And you might get talking to the girl, and she's saying, "That's a pretty dress," and you've got to be genuine. That people can smell bullshit, and you can say, where are you?" "I'm at the college," and you say, "Well, I've got an exam next week," and then you just spend being interested in the other person. Remember that, and then 2 weeks later, when you come back, say, "Oh, hi Jane, how did that exam go?" And Jane goes, "Bloody hell, he remembered."
Yeah.
And the chances of going home with Jane, if she's young, free, and single, and ready to mingle, are much, much higher.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about being interested in the other person genuinely, and then they will become interested in you. And from that, they get to know you, then like you, then trust you.
Well, you've kind of just shown us that that is who you are naturally. Because if you're saying that the reason why you continue to do the videos that you do or the interviews that you do is it's for you, it's for your mental health. You enjoy getting to know somebody. You're not doing it for any other reason other than it's something
I,
you enjoy doing.
I'm aware of the viewer numbers, but they don't check. They don't. If I have if I wanted a post that got engagement and I'd put a Rightmove pie chart posting because that always gets everyone's goat going. But most of my clients that come to me have never liked or commented on any of my posts.
That's really interesting, because I mean, I'm not as young as maybe you might think I am. I have got a filter on my screen right now. So I'm in my mid to late 40s now, and I didn't grow up in social media era, right? I watch and I look on social media and I see what people are doing, but I forget to like and comment. I look at it, I love it, I go, that's great content, and I'll scroll past to the next thing because I forget that that's what you're supposed to do. Now, if I said that to my daughter, who's in the next room studying right now, I am in the office, but she's with me. She would say to me, "Oh my God, why didn't you like it?" Like people, her friends would be like, "You saw my post, why didn't you like it?" It's like offensive if you don't, right? I forget to do these things, but it's interesting that people are still watching. I've got people that have come to me wanting to have conversations, saying they've watched my videos. They love this one in particular. They'll tell me about that they really enjoyed. No idea that they saw it. They didn't like it. They didn't comment. You never know who's watching, do you?
And that's why you should be aware of it. But quite frankly, they're just vanity metrics.
Yeah.
Patience is hard work in waiting, and hard work is patience in doing.
Yeah.
You've got to master both. You've got to do the hard work and be damned with the results. But it's a bit the way I would describe it is this is, when was the day that you, I mean, to anyone, what was the day that you fell in love with your other half? Or do you give a mark out of 10 or 100 for how much you love your other half each day? You don't know. You've just got to believe in the process. Yeah. You've just got to do it. If you're doing it for the right reasons, you'll turn up every day and create great content. Because that's the game of life. This is the remote control to people's lives. And all you need to do is put content. All social media is what you and I would say face to face, but on a computer screen. Okay. You
Yeah.
just have the ability now to say it to a hell of a lot more people. But why do
Exactly.
we as estate agents, you wouldn't go up to someone in the street saying, "Do you want to sell your house? Do you want to sell your house? Do you want to sell your house? Look at the size of my market share. It's brilliant. Do you want to sell a house? Here's a property I've listed. Here's a property I've listed. Here's a property I've listed." You don't do that.
Yeah.
But if you create great content which is of interest to the recipient, they will get to know, like, and trust you. And people do business with people they trust.
How long do you think the process takes, Chris, from the moment that you start that process where you really buy into giving this value the way that you're describing here? How long, in your opinion, does it take someone to see the return of that patience?
I mean, I say to people at least 12 months, but then, it's like, when someone says, when you enjoy work, it's not work. When you enjoy work, it's not work.
Yeah.
Well, if you're doing content and you're enjoying doing the content, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to say it's going to get me amount of return. I go down the studio just about every Monday. I interview someone interesting. It gets me out of the hair of Joanne because, let's be honest, I'm very loud and I talk to lots of people and she does her work. And so I do it for her mental health. So at least she has one day a week where she's not got me babbling on. Bless her. I just want to say thank you, Joanne, for your patience, because if that's bless her. That's the magic, because what number episode podcast is this?
This is number 7.
Okay, how many podcasts do you think you need to have to be in the top 1% of podcasts by size, by number of podcast episodes?
I
Oh
don't
my
know the answer
goodness.
to that. I would imagine it's in the tens of thousands. I would imagine. Maybe I'll just guess at 10,000 because it's the lowest number.
Claire?
Oh God, 50,000.
21.
21 podcasts. Oh, 21,000.
No, 21.
Good
Good grief.
Lord. Because people give up, I guess.
Yeah,
Wow. I never knew that.
to be in the top 1% of all podcasts in the world by number of episodes, you only need to have 21 episodes.
Good Lord.
Okay. And that's therein lies your magic. If you can get to 21, you're in the top 1%.
Is
And
that that's just kind of proof that it's all about consistency, right? Because so many people give up, don't they? Not just podcasts, but anything, right? Like some people don't commit to that lead gen activity for long enough. They do it for a few weeks and think, well, that didn't work. Now go and try something different, right? And it's that lack of consistency, lack of commitment, that lack of taking action, as you said, Chris,
yeah,
But it
that
comes from,
causes people to fail.
I personally, I think it's deep rooted though. So you're absolutely right. It is about the consistency. It is about the patience. But where do you get that from? You get that from your belief that you have in what you're doing is going to make a difference. And the belief comes, I think, from the passion and the enjoyment of doing what you're doing day to day. So for example, Chris, um, I think anyone listening to this podcast will probably get the sense that you really enjoy what you do every single day, which then fuels you, doesn't it? It fuels all that patience, it fuels all that consistency. It gets you over so many of the challenges because of the enjoyment of doing it day to day.
Oh, if I had my way, I'd be working 20 hours a day. I told Joanne I'd be working till 70. Um, that didn't go down too well. So we might have to negotiate on that one. But it isn't work.
Yeah.
Yep.
It isn't work. And I will just again say for the record that is that I'm very grateful for what Joanne does because I am an absolute pain in the ass to work to live with.
Well,
Yeah.
she
You
obviously
can't be
doesn't
that
think
you
so.
can't be that big of a pain because you said you was only about 5 feet away from each other, so it can't be that bad.
Yeah, there's a couple of computer screens in between us though. But we, and I think that it is important that you have someone, everyone sees the Chris Watkin, but honestly, and I do get a lot of smoke blown up my backside. You'll notice if you say something nice about me, I'll say thank you and I'll change the subject
Mm.
because so but what Joanne keeps me on the straight and narrow. She knows that there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, and she can spot that line where I overstep the mark, and just like a little cat, she'll just come on.
Reel you back
So
in.
normally it involves fill the dishwasher.
I
So,
love that. Keeping
so
your feet.
where do you want the industry to go, Chris? In a blue sky moment, let's fast forward. We have 5 or 10 years. Let's fast forward 10 years. We've gone beyond. Where do you want the industry to be? What do you want it to represent?
Uh, I'd like and notice we use the word industry and not profession because we are an industry at the moment. Um, you know, we we are here to serve,
Yep.
but I believe that the outlook of the vast majority of estate agencies is that they see estate agency to serve them.
Mm-hmm.
We are very privileged to move a family from one chapter of their life to the next.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
by moving someone from one chapter of their life, think of all the happy times when you've lived in a home. But in reality, if you look at most estate agents, their mindset is it's all about the deal, it's all about the listing. I mean, I've even gone on the estate agents don't care whether they sell houses or not, it's all about listings. Because it's quite frankly, is that they just want everyone to love them. And when they get a listing, it's amazing. You put 30 houses on the market, but you lose number 31, and it's like the end of the world with a dagger through your heart. Why?
Yeah.
It's like someone turning, when you're 14 years old and someone turned you down, my friend likes you and you say, oh, can I take you out as a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and they turn you down, and as a 14-year-old that really hurts. Well, I don't think most estate agents grow up and that hurt of losing a listing just really screws them up, so they'll do anything in their power not to lose the listing.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think sometimes this is I suppose we can only talk from our experience of, say, dealing with now self-employed agents. But I think I think kind of what you were saying there was, I think most self-employed agents would actually agree with, is that it's not just it's not just being a number, which you can sometimes be in large corporates and even into the larger independents, that they take on two and they sell one. They don't care what one that is. They just need to hit the one number, right? And that's not in the consumer's interest. Where I think the industry has to go is that every single person is cared for and protected and kept safe. And if you take on two, you sell two. And it's your job and obligation to make sure you're assisting that client to get that result, not just really working on the fact of the generalization of we're going to sell half of what comes on. I mean, I think that's where, for me, that's where it needs to change.
Definitely. I mean, isn't it interesting that in the last year, estate agents have only been paid on 52.1% of houses that they listed, whilst
Yeah.
the three biggest self-employed estate agents, 60.4, 62, and 62.
Yeah.
When you have skin in the game and your job, your responsibility is to take it from free val to listing to viewing to offer to sale, sales chasing and exchange and completion, you have skin in the game and you have more responsibility, and you're going to keep the vast majority of that fee, which means that not all about market share. It's about taking 3 or 4 people a month, because you can earn a damn good living from selling 3 or 4 houses.
Yep.
And making them want to move to the next one. Because isn't it fascinating that everyone quotes that people only move every 18 years, but what is it? I looked at 4,400 individual sales from around the country, and there is actually a 2-tier market. And again, this is a lesson for everyone listening to this, is that people tend to move in their 20s and 30s from the starter home to the middle home, from the flat to the terrace and the terrace to the semi. And they tend to move. There's a sweet spot where everyone moves between year 3 and year 5. 50% of the people who moved in the last year have only been in their house 6 years and 11 weeks or less. Okay.
Interesting.
And there's that sweet spot between year 3 and year 5 where an awful lot of people move. And then what you tend to find is when people get into their 40s and 50s, they tend to stay an awful lot longer, and they tend to be in, you can look at the property, they, more executive, bigger houses, they tend to be in there 25, 30 years. So therefore, my advice would be is, to any agent listening to this, is why don't you find out all the people who's moved who bought a starter home off you in years 2, 3, 4, and 5 ago, and start sending them messages on WhatsApp. What could you send them? You could probably do a little video that basically says, "Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I know you bought a house off us 5 years ago. I just wanted to give you a quick update of what properties like yours are selling for in your area." And do a little video and then just send it.
Yeah. I think that's why it's really important to understand the demographic of where you're working, isn't it? What's going to resonate best with those people. You're talking about a certain age bracket, right? So social media videos would work really well for it.
Okay, well, but no, there's a difference there. You've got to go. That's actually sending a personalized video to someone who bought a house off you 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. On social media, you're not sending it as personalized. But again, if anyone wants to, I'll take my mobile number down. It's 07950 147 572. If you send me a text message that says free stuff, I will send you tips on how to be the kingpin in a local housing estate, how to do local property tours, how to do the top 50 streets. This is what is of interest to local homeowners and landlords. Talk about the local property market.
Yeah. And what if you could give one tip, then obviously you're going to give a load of free stuff away there, but if somebody was starting out or talking to you about starting out, what would, other than the fact, start building your personal brand, start getting your face out there, start to do videos, what would you advise?
It all comes down to the content, putting the right content in front of the right people. Remember, this is where people's eyeballs, it's an attention game. You need to grab the attention of people in your locality. So firstly, you as a person join all the local Facebook groups. Why? Well, let's talk Grantham. 100% of Grantham homeowners live in Grantham. The only people that join Grantham Facebook groups are people from Grantham.
Yeah.
Their eyeballs are in the local Facebook groups. and then create content which is of interest from you, not your firm, about the Grantham property market. The quite simply, the best videos that you can do are the 50 most expensive streets. Countdown. You take your mobile phone. There's this new website called Amazion. You might have heard of it. Yeah. Okay. And you can buy a little clip-on Wi-Fi mic for 20 quid. If you were smart, you'd buy a 30 quid tripod and a little tripod adapter that you can, hold the phone in. And you would say something like this. Hi, I'm Chris and I love Grantham so much. I'm doing a countdown of the 50 most expensive streets in Grantham. Today, I'm at number 48, which is Peacecliff Avenue. Peacecliff Avenue is built in the 1970s, made up of 3 and 4 bedroom detached houses with an average price of £478,200. I love Peacecliff Avenue because it's next to the so-and-so school. You've got Betty's coffee shop round the corner, and of course, you're only literally 3 minutes away from the Grantham train station. Next week, I'll be at number 47 at the south end of Grantham. Would your street be on that? And then you post that into local. How do you get all those stats? When you text me free stuff, I give you some training videos on how to get all that information for free. And then you are going to do is get yourself on video, create the video, press record. You don't have to edit it. You can just snap, on videos, you can just pinch them in a bit on the editing software on the phone. Just pinch them in. Don't need any logos, no pictures, and then just post it in local Facebook groups. And you will get the attention because people love countdowns. And when you're talking about a countdown of something that they're involved in, they are all over it.
That is a fantastic tip, Chris.
How many people will do it?
No, hardly any. Don't worry about that. No one's going to do it. No one's going to listen to this podcast, and no one's going to do and the 2 people that do listen to it, they're not going to do the video because they're scared, because they're worried about what the people think about them. I mean, honestly, I give every single ounce of my techniques, including free templates, away. I give it completely away for free because I'm that confident. The technique of creating content, how to create it, templates and everything, and putting it in front of people, I give completely away for free. The same thing that I charge £350 a month for, where I create the content along with our team. But I give everything away for free because I'm that confident that people won't do it. And more thing I've learned, the more you tell people how to do things, the less they do it.
Is that a UK thing, Chris, or we think that's just humans?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because I do wonder sometimes, obviously, we are a very dependent model. We've spoken about this earlier. We haven't kind of used the word that the agents are more dependent on the model. But what we're saying here, particularly yourself, is that to build that personal brand, don't allow yourself to be dependent on that brand, whoever that you work for, right? So you've got to step out of that arena.
Well, there's 50 videos in that link.
Yeah.
You can track the numbers. They get to number 3 and then something on Netflix comes on. But if you put something on there, quick win on how to get more listings, they're all on it.
Yeah.
But it comes down. It all comes down to hard work and patience.
Yeah. Who really wants it? Who really wants it and is prepared to sacrifice, because some of the times that time-wise, that is going to be needed to see that huge success. And I think that's the bit that, I'll be honest, I mean, me and Claire can say that. I'll probably say it a little bit more than Claire, but it is a frustration of ours, like it is for a lot of people, where they're doing something consistently is so hard for people.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Hard work without patience leads to burnout, but patience without hard work leads to stagnation. It's, but then I'm glad to bits that you're doing this podcast. I mean, Mark, you're responsible for Keller Williams, but you should be out. You're getting a Watkin bollocking now. You should be doing a lot more content. Isn't it interesting that 40% of the people from a certain large self-employed estate agency have been brought in by 2 people?
Yeah.
And we all know who the people are. One's got a beard and one's a cheeky chap from Kent. Both awesome human beings, because they create content which is of interest and they've been doing it for years.
Yeah, no.
But it has to start from the top.
Yeah.
But Claire, thankfully, Claire, you've covered for Mark. Good for you. But Mark, we need to see a bit more of you, mate. There you go. You didn't think you'd turn the tables on that one, did you?
Oh no, Chris, me and you have had the phone call, right? So
Yeah, you've had the phone
I
call.
was expecting this. That's
Very
fine.
good. Hey, but at least you're doing this though, mate. So well done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there, baby steps. But yeah, I mean, look, the for me, it's consistency is key. We know that, but you do have to have a deep-rooted passion for what you do. It has to be, so you have to enjoy what you do so much. You have to be so passionate about what you do that exactly as you said, Chris, it doesn't even feel like work. That's when you can build habits of doing the important things that you need to do without it feeling like a chore. And I think that's the problem. If you're trying to do something that you don't really enjoy, or you're trying to be something that you're not going to stick at it anyway. So you've got to find, and video absolutely is really important, but there are other ways to lead generate, of course. But you've got to find that sweet spot, that vein to tap into, something that you know that you can do consistently, which is going to drive the business in. And choosing something that you enjoy doing is part of
Yeah.
that.
I mean, video is the best because the subcon meeting video is visual, and visual is like when you meet someone face to face.
Yeah.
The subconscious cannot distinguish between meeting someone face to face or seeing someone on video, so on the screen. So that's why video is important. But if you're absolutely not going to do video, that doesn't mean you can't do the written word.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you can't do a podcast.
Yeah.
If you were in, say, Loughton in London, why don't you start hey, here's an idea, the Loughton property blog. Ooh. And if you go on an app called Anchor, as in the thing that comes out of the ship, you can I did this on stage. I set up the Grantham property blog on Anchor, and within 4 minutes, it was on Spotify and iTunes.
Wow, really? Was it you talking into the property blog then?
So basically,
Great
I
idea.
went on to Anchor. I said, set up a property blog. What you call it, Grantham property blog. I then dictated, this is a Grantham property blog and what it's about. And that says, right, create an episode. And I just did hi, my name's Chris Watkin. And I went blah, 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 blah. Press send. And within 4 minutes, it was on iTunes and Spotify.
That's a great idea. I would not have even thought to do that. It's another top tip from Chris Watkin there.
Yeah, but don't worry about it. No one's going to do it.
I might. In fact, I will. I will. Look it up on Spotify.
Just create content which is of interest to your audience. Like with this, I'm assuming you're going to put the whole podcast out, but why don't you go and subscribe to Opus, which you put the whole video in, and it will chop it up into little 2-minute segments, 1-minute segments, which are using AI, coming out with something that's quite impactful. So
Yeah.
now all of a sudden you've got 20 videos plus the main one plus a podcast.
Done.
And people say they've not got time. You've got time.
Just on the Opus website, Chris. So yeah, we'll be getting that sorted just after this is this be downloaded.
Chris, is there anything we haven't asked you that we should have asked you?
Don't think so. As I said, I'm just a boring little man.
Well, you're not a boring little man at all. You give a lot of yourself back to the industry. We all appreciate you. You give a lot of time to other people, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I thank you very much indeed for joining us today on the podcast as well.
Pleasure. And thank you for what you're doing in this podcast as well.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.